Good evening. This is Knowledge Time. Welcome, alchemists. Today I'll be reading from the book The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. Currently, I am in chapter 14, Resist the Downward Pull of the Group, The Law of Conformity, Part 2, Keys to Human Nature. At certain moments in life, we humans may experience an energy that is powerful, with sensations unlike any other. But this energy is something we rarely discuss or analyze. We can describe it as an intense feeling of belonging to a group, and we often experience it in the following situations. Let us say we find ourselves in a large audience for a concert, sporting event, or a political rally. At a certain point, waves of excitement, anger, or joy move through us, shared by thousands of others. These emotions rise in us automatically. We cannot experience this when alone or with just a few people. In this large group setting, we might be led to say or do things we would never have said or done on our own. In a similar vein, perhaps we have to give a talk before a group. If we are not too nervous and the crowd is on our side, we experience a swelling of emotion from deep within. We're feeding off the audience. Our voice changes to a pitch and tone we never have in daily life. Our gestures and body language become unusually animated. We might also experience this from the other side. When we listen to a charismatic speaker, that person seems to be invested with some sort of special force that commands our respect and fills us with increasing excitement. Or perhaps we find ourselves working in a group with a critical goal to reach within a short time frame. We feel compelled to do more than we normally can, to work extra hard. We feel a charge of energy that comes from feeling connected to others who are working with the same urgent spirit. A point is reached at which members of the group do not even have to talk. We're all on the same page and can even anticipate the thoughts of our colleagues. The above feelings are not registered rationally. They come to us in automatic bodily sensations, goosebumps, racing heartbeat, extra vitality, and power. Let us call us this energy the social force, a type of invisible force field that affects and binds a group of people through shared sensations and creates an intense feeling of connection. If we confront this force field as outsiders, it tends to induce anxiety. For instance, we find ourselves traveling to a place with a culture very different from our own. Or we begin a job at a workplace where people seem to have their own way of relating to one another, with a secret language of sorts. Or we walk through a neighborhood of a much different social class than what we're used to, much wealthier or poorer. In these moments, we are aware that we don't belong, that others are looking at us as outsiders, and from deep within we feel uneasy and unusually alert, although in fact we may have nothing really to fear. We can observe several interesting elements to the social force. First, it exists inside us and outside us at the same time. When we experience the bodily sensations mentioned above, we are almost certain that others on our side are feeling the same. We feel the force within, but we think of it as outside ourselves as well. This is an unusual sensation, perhaps equivalent to what we feel when we are in love and experience a shared energy that passes between ourselves and the love object. We can also say this force differs depending on the size and chemistry of the particular group. In general, the larger the group, the more intense is the effect. When we are among a large group of people who seem to share our ideas or values, we feel quite a rush of increased strength and vitality, as well as a communal warmth or heat that comes from feeling that we belong. There is something awesome and sublime about this force multiplied in a large crowd. This increase in energy and excitement can easily shift to anger and violence in the presence of an enemy. The particular mix of people shapes the effect as well. If the leader is charismatic and bursting with energy, it filters through the group or gathered masses. If a large number of individuals have a particular emotion tendency toward anger or joy, that will alter the collective mood. And finally, we are drawn to this force. We feel attracted to numbers. A stadium full of partisan supporters of a team, chorus, chorus of people singing, parades, carnivals, concert, religious assemblies, and political convention. In these situations, we are reliving what our ancestors invented and refined: the gathering of the clan, mass soldiers parading in columns before the city walks, early theatrical and gladiatorial spectacles. Subtracting the minority who feel frightened by such gatherings, we generally have a love of partisan crowds for their own sake. They make us feel alive and vital. This can become an addiction. We feel compelled to expose ourselves to this energy again and again. Music and dance epitomize this aspect of the social force. The group experiences the rhythm and melody as one, and music and dance are among the earliest forms we create to satisfy this urge to externalize the force. We can observe one other aspect of the social force in its reverse form. When we experience a prolonged period of isolation, we know from the accounts of prisoners in solitary confinement and explorers isolated in remote region. See Richard E. Byrd's account of his harrowing 5 months in isolation in Antarctica. In his book alone, that they began to feel disconnected from reality and sense that their personalities are disintegrating. They become prone to elaborate hallucinations. What they miss most of all is not simply the presence of people near them, but the eyes of others looking back at them. We formed our whole concept of ourselves in our first months as we looked at our mothers. Her return gaze gave us a sense that we existed. She told us who we were by how she looked at us. As adults, we experience the same kind of nonverbal validation and sense of self through the eyes of others who look at us. We are never aware of this. It would take prolonged isolation to understand the phenomena. This is the social force at its most basic level. Only the eyes of other people can reassure us that we are real and whole and that we belong. The social force can make itself felt in our virtual worlds and virtual crowds. It is less intense than being in the actual crowd, but we can't feel the presence of others in a phantom-like way through the screen, inside us and outside us. And we continually consult our smartphones as a kind of substitute pair of eyes upon us. The social force among humans is merely a more complex version of what all social animals experience. Social animals are continually attuned to the emotions of others within the group, aware of their role in the pack and anxious to fit in. Among higher primates, this includes imitating those higher up in the rank as a show of inferiority. They display elaborate physical cues that allow the group to communicate and cooperate. They have grooming rituals to tighten their bonds, and hunting in packs as a similar effect. They experience a shared energy when simply assembled together. We humans may seem much more sophisticated, but the same dynamic occurs in us as well, on a completely subverbal level. We sense and feel what others in the group are feeling. We have an urgent need to fit in and play our role in the group. We are prone to unconsciously imitate gestures and expressions, particularly from leaders. We still like to hunt in packs, through social media, or wherever it is acceptable to vent our anger. We have our own rituals to tighten group bonds, religious or political assemblies, spectacles, warfare. And we most definitely experience a collective energy that passes through any group of like-minded people. What is most peculiar about this force as it exists within us is how little we discuss or analyze something that is so obviously common to our experience. Some of this may come from the fact that it is hard to study these sensations in a rigorously scientific manner, but there is also something willful about this ignorance. Deep down, this phenomena troubles us. Our automatic reactions in a group or our propensity to imitate others reminds us of the most primitive aspects of our nature, our animal roots. We want to imagine ourselves not only as civilized and sophisticated, but also as individuals with conscious control of much of what we do. Our group behavior tends to shatter this myth, and historical examples such as the Cultural Revolution frighten us with our own possibilities. We do not like to see ourselves as social animals operating under particular compulsions. It offends our self opinion as a species. Understand, the social force is neither positive nor negative. It is simply a psychological part of our nature. Many aspects of this force that evolved so long ago are quite dangerous in the modern world. For instance, the deep suspicion we tend to feel toward outsiders to our group and our need to demonize them evolved among our earliest ancestors because of the tremendous dangers of infectious diseases and the aggressive intentions of rival hunter gatherers. But such group reactions are no longer relevant in the 21st century. In fact, with our technological prowess, they can be the source of our most violent and genocidal behavior. In general, to the degree that the social force tends to degrade our ability to think independently and rationally, we can say it exerts a downward pull into more primitive ways of behaving, unsuited to modern conditions. The social force, however, can be used and shaped for positive purposes, for high level cooperation and empathy, for an upward pull, which we experience when we create something together in a group. The problem we face as social animals is not that we experience this force, which occurs automatically, but that we are in denial of its existence. We become influenced by others without realizing it. Accustomed to unconsciously following what others say and do, we lose the ability to think for ourselves. When faced with critical decisions in life, we simply imitate what others have done or listen to people who patriot conventional wisdom. This can lead to many inappropriate decisions. We can lose contact with what makes us unique, the source of our power as individuals. See Chapter 13 for more on this. Some people, aware of these tendencies in our nature, may choose to rebel and become conformist, but this can be equally mindless and self destructive. We are social creatures. We depend on our ability to work with others. Rebelling for its own sake will simply marginalize us. What we need more than anything is group intelligence. The intelligence includes a thorough understanding of the effect that groups have on our thinking and emotions. With such awareness, we can resist the downward pull. It also includes understanding how human groups operate according to certain laws and dynamics, which can make it easier to navigate through such spaces. With such intelligence, we can do a delicate dance. We can become gifted social actors and outwardly fit in, while inwardly maintaining some distance and some mental space to think for ourselves. With this degree of independence, we can make decisions in life that are appropriate to who we are in our circumstances. To acquire this intelligence, we must study and master the two aspects of the social force outlined above: the individual effects of groups on us and the patterns and dynamics that groups will almost always tend to fall into. So that's the end of part 2. Tomorrow I'll be reading part 3, the individual effect. In closing, pretty much what I got from this reading, Keys to Human Nature. Well, it was speaking a lot about the social force and pretty much isolation and knowing how to deal with yourself when you're alone. I think I've lived in total isolation all my life. I've been in institutions. I've been into adolescence, Um, I was a bad kid, so they put me in all type of institution programs to regulate my behavior. But I was a good kid. I didn't have the attention. I didn't have a mother and father figure, so that was my thing. I was getting into trouble for attention. So I remember being alone. It just made me grow up. You know, it just made me realize life, like what I have to, for me to survive, I have to do these things and things that I wasn't accustomed to, or it was way out of pretty much my environment, pretty much my circle, you know, my family that I grew around. I grew up in extreme poverty. So, I mean, it's all about environment. That's what I learned in the end. Even though if you're living in a bad environment and you're trying to do good, that environment is still gonna have an effect on you. You have to get out. It's all about changing your environment. If you don't change your environment, you're not gonna grow. As simple as that. Like, then that's the hardest for people to change environments. Because I know for me, the environment that I was used to, I mean, that's all I knew, you know, and everything else just seemed just against my values and the way I was brought up. So I just had to learn to break out of that and pretty much think for myself and grow that way. And pretty much, I'm on another mission this year is pretty much socializing. I pretty much, for the past couple of years, you know, being in the military, it kind of messed up with people, being around a lot of people, I get really shaky and jumpy, and it just reminds me of like war situations and deployments that I've been on. So I'm trying to get used to it, but I still on edge, and you know, a lot of people it freaks me out. So, but I'm learning to get back and talking to people again, because I really closed myself off for many years, and I'm noticing now, like, you need people around you. You need to listen to the different opinions around you to formulate, you know, your opinion of pretty much the way you're gonna move in your life. So that's pretty much something that I'm learning again, to communicate with other people again. You know, we're all here stuck on this one earth. Might as well communicate with each other. You know. So I'm getting back into that this year. So pretty much, I'm gonna be doing networking events in San Francisco, California. So I got that on my other channel, Masculine Confidence Building, Max Bugatti. So that's part of the Masculine Confidence Building program that I'll be pretty much strengthening again. But these are pretty much different topics for a man to build up masculine confidence, building naturally. So, outro. Subscribe to the channel. Comment any questions you have. Like if the information was inspiring for you, and share this knowledge with other alchemists. Also, follow me on Instagram for more progressive knowledge. My Instagram is Max_Bugatti_8008. I'm all about family first. I'm a global stock investor. I'm a filmmaker. I'm an aerospace botanist. I have a masculine confidence building program. And currently, I'm out here in Cali, Colombia. While you're slaying dragons, I'll be taming them.